My name is Jake, and I am 31 years old. Back when I was 22, I was in college in Michigan, living what I thought was a normal, peaceful life. Classes during the day, hanging out with friends in the evenings, and spending my weekends trying to survive on microwave meals and cheap pizza. I grew up in what most people would probably call a typical household. My dad worked as a mechanic, and my mom ran a little flower shop downtown. They stayed busy, but they always made time for me and my 3 older sisters. We were never the most affectionate or emotional family, but we got along just fine. No drama. No big fights. Just ordinary. Even our extended family was all right. We were not especially close, but we saw each other during the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, sometimes the 4th of July, and everything was always friendly. Everyone lived a few hours apart, so we didn't exactly grow up side by side, but there were no hard feelings. Just life pulling people in different directions. As the years went on, we naturally drifted apart. That is how things go. People get married, have kids, move for work. I stayed in touch with my parents and sisters, but the cousins? Not really. It was just how life unfolded. Then came the day everything flipped. It was a random Wednesday night. I was in my dorm playing video games with a couple of guys from down the hall. We had this weekly thing going. It was our way to blow off steam after classes. My phone rang. It was my mom. I did not answer right away. I figured I would call her back after the match. But then, right after that missed call, she rang again. No pause. Now, in my family, that meant something was wrong. Really wrong. We had this unspoken rule: if someone calls twice in a row, back to back, you answer. It meant someone got hurt. Or worse. So I paused the game, stepped out of the room, and picked up. All I heard at first was yelling. Arguing. Voices talking over each other. Total chaos. Then I heard my mom's voice. She must have stepped away from the others and into a separate room, because it got quiet except for her breathing and some muffled sobbing. I asked, "Mom, what is going on?" She sounded like she was trying to hold it together, but she was clearly crying. Her voice was shaky. Then she asked me something that made my stomach turn. She said, "Jake, do you have anything you need to confess?" About Ellie? Ellie. My cousin. My mom's niece. She was 15 at the time, 7 years younger than me. I had not seen her in years, maybe since she was 10 or 11. I was confused and said, "No, what are you talking about?" Then she completely broke down. Through her sobbing, she told me that Ellie had gone to my sister and told her that I had touched her inappropriately years ago. That had happened when I was 16 and she was just 9. That she had been playing in my room, and I came in and started doing things. She said Ellie described everything, where it happened, how it happened. My mom kept repeating, "Did you do this? Jake, did you do this?" And every time, I just shouted, "No. I did not do anything." I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. It felt like a nightmare you cannot wake up from. And that was just the beginning. I will never forget that phone call. It was back in 2014. I was 22, just a regular college kid trying to stay afloat. That night, I was in my dorm room playing online games with my roommates when my phone buzzed. It was my mom. Eventually, she put me on speakerphone. I could hear my dad now too. They both told me that they did not want anything to do with me. That I should never contact them again. Later that day, two of my sisters texted me. The messages were short, just enough to call me disgusting, and then they blocked me. I know it sounds strange, but after all that, I just went and stood in the shower. For a long time. I could not process it. I do not even remember turning the water on. Later, I tried calling everyone. I even messaged Ellie. No one picked up. Those who had not blocked me did soon after. My dad was the only one who said anything. He texted me, told me to stop contacting them. Said they needed time to heal. It has been 9 years since that day, and I have not heard a single word from anyone in my family. Saying it messed me up would be putting it lightly. 4 weeks after it happened, I walked around like a zombie. I barely ate. Everything just felt empty. And the worst part? This all went down right before I was supposed to defend my final thesis for my bachelor's degree. I was already hanging on by a thread with stress, and this just pushed me over the edge. Thankfully, my thesis partner noticed I was not okay. He covered for me during the defense, steering the conversation so I only had to answer the simpler questions. If it were not for him, I would have failed right then and there. Needless to say, not a single person from my family came to the graduation ceremony. That was the beginning of what I can only describe as the darkest chapter of my life. For that entire first year, I lived in fear, convinced that any day now, the police would show up at my door and arrest me for something I did not do. I could not get a job. I lived off the little savings I had left. I started drinking more than I ever had before, and I got hooked on oxycodone. The anger inside me built up, and I started becoming violent, not outwardly, but the rage was boiling inside. The only reason no one got hurt is because there was no one around. I was completely alone. One time, I smashed a glass so hard in my apartment that the neighbor called the cops. When they showed up, I lied and told them I had just dropped it by accident. Since I lived alone and there was no one else inside, they let it go. At night, I could not sleep. I would lie awake, obsessively thinking about ways I could get back at my cousin. I even had moments where I imagined doing to her what she falsely accused me of, but even worse. I hate admitting that. I am not proud of those thoughts. That was not me. That was the shattered, hopeless version of me that the false accusation had created. Late in 2015, I finally caught a break and got a real job in my field. That is when things began to turn around. I poured all my energy into work. It gave me a reason to get up, something stable to hold on to. Slowly, I started drinking less. I even smiled more. I kept my lifestyle cheap and saved up. Every year on my birthday, I made it a tradition to buy myself something nice, a little victory present. One year it was a virtual reality headset. Another time a motorcycle. Once, even a big Lego set. I was trying to build a life again. Brick by brick. Last year, I finally moved out of that rundown apartment and bought myself a small house. It had always been a quiet dream of mine to have my own garage and a little patch of garden I could take care of. And getting that place, it really gave me a boost. Something about owning your own space, it made me feel like I was finally stepping into a new chapter of life. Life's okay now. Not perfect. But okay. I still wrestle with a lot of things. I have been on antidepressants for the past few years. They help, I guess, but not in the way you might think. They do not make you happy. They just silence the dark thoughts. Only problem is, they replace them with nothing. Just a numbness. My ability to trust people? Pretty much gone. I have tried dating. Twice, actually. 2 different women. And each time, it felt like I forgot how to speak like a normal person when it came down to real conversation. And I always get stuck on the same thought, what would I even say when they ask about my family? Oh, my family? Yeah, they accused me of doing something awful, and we have not spoken in almost a decade. But hey, I swear I did not do it. Yeah, that does not exactly set the stage for a second date. I work in a field mostly filled with men, so the only woman I really talk to regularly is my therapist. She is great. I genuinely like her, and I do not say that lightly. Then, just a few days ago, something happened I was not ready for. I got a text message from my mother. I still remember standing there with my phone in hand, staring at those messages like they were ghosts from the past. After nearly a decade of silence, my parents suddenly reached out. I could not believe it. At first, I was scared to even open the message. I just sat on the edge of my couch, staring at the screen for what felt like hours. When I finally opened it, my hands were shaking. The first message was from my mom. She said something like, "Hi, Jake. It has been such a long time since we last talked. We miss you and we want to know how you are doing." She went on about my sisters, how they were doing great, how their kids, my nieces and nephews, were growing up fast. I did not even know I was an uncle. Then she ended it with, "We love you and always will. Love, Mom and Dad." It felt like someone had reached through time and punched me in the gut. Then the next day, a second message came through. This time, it was longer. They said they understood if I did not want to talk to them again after what happened. But they wanted me to listen. Apparently, at a recent family gathering, someone brought up my name. And that is when Ellie, my cousin, started brushing everything off like it had been nothing. According to my parents, she finally admitted that nothing ever happened. That maybe she had dreamed it all. I could not believe what I was reading. They said everyone in the room was shocked. My parents admitted they had only wanted to protect her back then. That they thought they were doing the right thing. But now, they knew how wrong it was. They said they were angry at her. That they had called everyone in the family and told them the truth. And then they wrote that they wanted to see me again. That my sisters wanted to introduce me to their families. That they hoped, somehow, I could find it in me to forgive them. They ended the message just like before. Love, Mom and Dad. And now, I am stuck. I have not replied. but I know I saw their messages. The truth is, I am furious. I am not sure I have ever felt this kind of anger. All those memories I had buried so deep started bubbling up again. All the pain. All the silence. All the years of being treated like a monster for something I never did. Part of me wants to call them and unleash every single thing I have held in all these years. Make them feel just a fraction of the hell I went through. Make them hit rock bottom and realize what they truly did. Another part of me wants to just leave it all behind. Keep living my quiet, kind of okay life. Just me, my motorcycle, and the garden I have been pouring my energy into. I do not really have anyone else. My coworkers are nice, but we are not close. I do not have friends. And the only person I feel safe talking to is my therapist, but she is on vacation for the next few weeks. So now it is just me, and strangers on the internet. What do I even do? Do I respond? Do I just move on? And if I do answer, what could I even say? Because right now, I honestly do not trust myself to be in the same room with any of them. As ridiculous as it might sound, I used to picture this moment in my head the day they all came crawling back to me. I imagine them crying, falling to their knees, begging for forgiveness, maybe even kissing my boots if we are being dramatic about it. But instead, I got some dry text messages. Honestly, it felt like someone popped a balloon that had been slowly inflating for years. Just deflated. Anyway, it has been about 3 months since I first shared what happened. And since then, a lot has changed, some of it for the better, some not so much. Let us start with the bad. Out of nowhere, I got a message from Ellie. Yeah, the same cousin who made that horrific accusation that shattered my life. She sent me a long wall of text. Said she wanted to apologize. At first, I just stared at my phone, not even sure if I should open it. When I finally did, I almost threw the thing across the room. Her message was full of rambling. She talked about how she had been struggling mentally for years, like that somehow explained what she had done. She said she had been working with therapists now and her parents were helping her get better. That she was trying to understand herself, trying to grow. It all read like a script. Like some cheap excuse written by someone who had been caught red-handed. And at the very bottom of that huge mess of a message was her actual apology. Just a short line. I'm sorry for what I did. That was it. No accountability. No acknowledgement of what her lie cost me. Just a weak apology sandwiched between paragraphs of self-pity. I had tried to tell myself that I would move forward, little by little. Rebuild what was lost. Keep my head down and live a quiet life. But reading that message after everything, I felt like something inside me snapped. All the years of pain, the isolation, the therapy, the long nights of wondering what I did to deserve any of it, came rushing back in full force. This was not closure. It was insult added to injury. I could not hold it in anymore. I had to reply to her. I had to let it all out, every dark, bitter thought I had been holding back for years. But when I finally sat down to write my response, I did not go off with curses or shouting in all caps. Instead, I wrote something calm and cold. I told her this. You think your mental health struggles are tough? Try being cast out and completely cut off from your entire family at the age of 22. Try spending a decade on your own, trying to piece your life back together with no support, no answers, and no one willing to hear your side. Try waking up every day wondering if people think you are some kind of monster. I said, you may claim you were struggling, but you always knew what you had done. You had years to speak the truth, years. And you only did it when it finally got too awkward for you to keep lying. You are lucky I did not end my own life back then. There were days I thought about it, and the fact that you could have stopped it all with one conversation. That is something I will never forgive. Then I ended the message with this. You may have fooled everyone else, but not me. What you did destroyed me. Do not ever contact me again. I hope you live with what you did. She read it. I know that because I saw the read receipt. No reply. Good. Now, on to something else, something harder, in its own way. After all this, I finally responded to my parents. At first, just a short message. But eventually, we talked on the phone. And let me tell you, hearing their voices again after all these years, it hit me like a brick. There was a time when those voices made me feel safe, like everything would be okay. But now? All I could think of was the last time I heard them. Screaming at me. Condemning me. Cutting me off. Still, we talked. 4 hours. 3, maybe 4. And for the first time in my life, we actually talked. Not yelled, not argued, just talked. They did not make excuses. They did not defend what they did. They owned it. They told me they had lived with guilt every single day since that call. That once the truth came out, it hit them harder than anything ever had. They said they still did not know how to live with themselves. And for the first time in a very long time, I believed them. One of the toughest moments during that call was when I asked them the question that had haunted me for years. Why did you not believe me? Why did you choose to believe a niece over your own son? There was a pause on the other end. Then my dad spoke. He said they had wrestled with that question every day since it happened. That the way Ellie told her story, the way she cried, the detail she gave, it made it all feel real to them. They said they were scared. They felt like they had to make a choice, and they chose wrong. That hit hard. I told them that even if they had doubts, even if they thought the worst, they could have at least tried to get me help. They could have checked in, sent a message, done something, anything. But instead, they gave me nothing. Not even a chance. They both admitted it. Said it was their biggest regret. Said that after the first year or two, they actually thought about reaching out. But then, they decided not to. Why? Because they assumed I would not talk to them. That I would slam the door in their face. That it would only make things worse. That made me angrier than anything. I told them, you should not have cared about what kind of person you thought I was. What mattered is that I was, and still am, your son. And that should have come first. By the end of that conversation, we agreed on one thing. We would stay in contact. No visits. No big reunions. Just messages. Small steps. There is still a lot of pain in me. A lot of anger. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Since that call, we have been texting more often. Checking in. Talking about regular, everyday stuff. It is strange and uncomfortable, but familiar. I still do not know if I can face them in person. I do not know what it would feel like to walk into that house again. To hug the people who once cast me out like I was nothing. Maybe someday. But not now. That is where things stand. Cousin falsely accused me. Family turned their back on me. And now, nearly a decade later, the truth finally came out. It did not fix everything. But it gave me a piece of something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. It has been about 5 months since my last update, and I have to say things are finally looking up. A lot of folks were pushing me to take legal action against Ellie, my cousin. And believe me, I thought about it. What she did was beyond cruel, life-altering in the worst way. But after nearly a decade of trying to survive the wreckage, I just want peace. Not more chaos. Dragging her into court would mean tens of thousands in lawyer fees, and frankly, I do not have the energy or the money for that. And oddly enough, I kept thinking, if what she said really mattered that much to her, why did she never take me to court herself? I know that might not be the best reasoning, but it stuck in my head. I am still talking to my parents. And this part is hard to even type. I went to visit them about a week ago. They cut off Ellie completely, which in some twisted way feels like justice. I spent years being the outcast, the villain in their eyes. Now she knows what that feels like. I am not saying that makes it all even, but it is something. Dinner with them was surprisingly normal. We kept things low-key. I have not met the rest of the family yet. I need time. I said it before, this is going to be a slow process. You do not just walk back into the lives of people who shut the door in your face and pretend nothing happened. But when I saw them, my mom and dad, I did not feel the burning anger I thought I would. I expected resentment to bubble up and overflow. But instead, I felt something else. Maybe it was relief. Maybe a tiny piece of me hoped that this could be a step toward putting the pieces of my life back together. I did not hug them right away. We sat down and talked first. And I let it all out. Not in a cruel way, but in a real, raw, painful way. I told them about the nights I stayed awake, thinking about ending it all. About the therapy, the pills, the years of silence. My mom cried when I got to the worst parts. I almost did too. They told me, again, how sorry they were. That they knew they could never undo what happened, but they wanted to move forward. They even said I was welcome to come home for Christmas. I told them I would think about it. And the truth is, I might. I still carry a lot of pain, but it feels lighter than it used to. Maybe because, for the first time in a decade, I am not being blamed for something I never did. Maybe because someone finally said, we were wrong. Since that visit, we have been checking in on each other regularly. The conversations are starting to feel familiar, like they used to be. That gives me hope. And here is something I never thought I would say, I started seeing someone. I met this incredible woman, kind and genuine, and for once, I feel like maybe I deserve to be happy too. We are taking it slow, but it feels right. So, yeah. Life is not perfect. There are still scars. But I am finally on the other side of the storm, breathing fresh air again. And if you are someone carrying a burden like I was, know that healing is slow, and it is not always pretty. But it is possible. Who knows what the next 10 years will bring? But for the first time in a long, long time, I am looking forward to finding out. I did not hug them right away. Honestly, I could not. Not after everything that was said at that table. The talk we had, it was heavy. I did not go in planning to lay into them, but once we started talking, all the weight I had been carrying for a decade came pouring out. I had to let them know just how deep the hurt ran. I needed them to understand, not just say sorry, but really hear what they had done to me. Somewhere in the middle of it, my mom started crying. I think it was when I told her about the nights I could not sleep, the years I felt like I was rotting from the inside out. The silence. The guilt that was never mine to carry. They said they knew they could not undo it all. Nothing would erase what happened. But they also said they hoped we could still build something from here. Something better. They even brought up the idea of me coming back home for Christmas, seeing the rest of the family. I told them I was not sure. I wanted to be honest about where I am. I said I need to take it slow, and they agreed. For now, I am just trying to live in the moment. Try to feel like myself again. And you know what? I think it is working. That old bitterness I had, it is not as sharp anymore. I can breathe easier. Smile a little more. I feel like I am finally becoming the person I was supposed to be before everything went off the rails. And there is more. I met someone. A woman who is kind, funny, and makes me feel seen. We are not rushing anything, but it feels good to have someone like that in my life. Someone who does not know the old story, just sees me for who I am now. For the first time in what feels like forever, I am actually hopeful. I do not know what the next 10 years will look like, but I am not afraid of the future anymore. And if you are someone going through something heavy, something you think might never end, please, hold on. Healing takes time. Sometimes a lot of it. But life can surprise you, even after 10 years of darkness. So thank you for reading this. I hope my story helps someone out there keep going. Because things really can get better.